All right, in this lesson, we're going to talk about taking ownership. And taking ownership is one of the most foundational principles you will ever have in your life if you want to be successful. Because when you take ownership, that means you're taking responsibility for yourself. And that is huge, because the opposite of taking ownership is blaming other people. It's shifting responsibility. It's making excuses. It's making reasons why things didn't work out. But when you take ownership, you're taking responsibility for yourself and for the process. Now that's slightly different than taking ownership for the outcome, because you can't always control what the outcome is. And that's an important thing to understand, because a lot of anxiety people feel is this, I have to be able to control the outcome and make sure this thing doesn't happen. And that actually limits progress, because then you don't ask for help, you try to control every variable. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is this idea of taking ownership for yourself, for the process. Now, when you're looking at anything you do, whether it's your training, your nutrition, whether it's your mindset, your reading, your habits, your daily routines, understand that you have to take ownership. It's not just enough to say, I'm going to do this because my coach says to do this, or because my friend does this, or because this, my mom makes me do this. You have to take ownership of this. And now, what does this look like? Well, instead of just saying, we didn't have any food in the pantry, so I guess I'm not going to eat breakfast. No, plan ahead, make sure you have food there. This means when you start cooking, means taking ownership for your training, making sure that you have the time and the space to do this, setting time before and after school, making sacrifices and choosing to pick one thing over the other. When you take ownership, what this means is that you take responsibility for what happens. Now, that means that when things go well, good job, they're your fault. But when things don't go well, that's also your fault. So keep that in mind. Because if you want to be the person that gets to accept the praise for when things went well, for a job well done, for winning the game, you also got to be the person that steps in, takes ownership for when things don't go well. And though that can seem scary, that's actually the most freeing thing ever, because you know that you are in control of what's going on. Now, the big takeaway from this is I want you to shift your mindset. I want you to shift and understand that you are your own boss. You are your own CEO. No one tells you what to do. No one forces you to do things. No one makes you do anything. You get to decide that. Now, it may be in your best interest to go along and do something that someone else has asked of you, but understand that there's never a time where you should complain or make excuses. Now, if you, from this moment forward, made the pact with yourself that you were never going to complain again or make an excuse, your life would only get better. And now, I'm not saying that it would be easy, but I'm saying it would only get better, because you wouldn't be able to make a little white lie or shift or say if things had worked out. You would realize and be confronted with the truth of what happened, the reality. It's not always pretty. We don't always want to see that. But when we can confront that and take ownership of ourselves and what's going on, that allows us to really confront and then move forward. And if that's what you really want, which is success in your athleticism, with your body, with your health, with your life, with your job, career, relationships, you got to start taking ownership. Because if you keep shifting the responsibility, if you keep lying, or if you keep blaming someone else, making excuses for why things didn't work out, how they would have been different, and if only things had done this or that and the other thing, you're never going to get there. The greatest people and the most successful people in this world take ownership, and they don't accept anything less, and they work through feedback. They risk failure in order to get to that success. And that's what I want for you. So no more complaining, no more excuses. Take ownership and realize that if you're doing something, it's because you want to do it. And when you have that mindset, that changes everything.